The Mandalorian Season 2 has concluded, and oh boy, was it one heck of a conclusion. I think a lot of us were surprised at the ending. But there's one scene in particular that I want to talk about. Everyone's calling it a plot hole, that it was a huge mistake, and that it was a hindsight error. But was it really? Was it actually an error, or does it actually make sense in canon? Well, let's find out together. Greetings, fellow nerds. Welcome to another Nerdful video. You know what we do here? We talk about video games, board games, anime, TV shows throughout the week, and you also get to see me play Magic the Gathering, so you get a lot more content than just your everyday channel. So if that stuff piqued your interest just a tiny bit, consider hitting that subscribe button so you have an easier time finding me in the future, because a lot of you watchers are actually not subscribed, so just consider hitting that button. Anyways, we're here to talk about what people are deeming to be the biggest plot hole in the Star Wars universe, particularly what happened in season 2, the ending of The Mandalorian. But I'm actually starting to think, with all the research and with all the TV shows and kind of what happened, it might not actually be a plot hole that people are saying it is. Now, don't get me wrong. If I'm completely wrong about what I'm about to say, then it is a giant, massive plot hole. But I tend to think that Jon Favreau, Dave Filoni, George Lucas are a little bit smarter than that. I think we should give them a little bit more credit. So the scene I'm talking about is, of course, Bo Katan rejecting taking the Darksaber from Din, particularly when he tries to hand it off to her, saying like, okay, I yield, and we don't have to fight, just take it. And Moff Gideon says, well, she actually can't do that. She has to do it by combat. And everyone is saying, wait a minute, this is a massive plot hole because of what happened in Rebels. So I'm about to do some spoilers, so if you haven't seen Rebels, I'd recommend at least, doing a Google search history about what happened with the Darksaber in Rebels, or, just watching YouTube videos about it, because I believe Disney XD YouTube channel has the full history. I think it's like 40 minutes of the Darksaber video and the history behind it. So I'll go ahead and check that out if you just want to get caught up, or if you're cool with it, just stick around and I'll tell you what's going on. So in Rebels, at the end of the Mandalorian Civil War, Sabine Wren, who has more or less wielded the Darksaber when it was stolen from Darth Maul, and by rights is basically the rightful owner, even though she didn't defeat Darth Maul, but then Darth Maul dies later from Obi-Wan, but no one really knows about that. But anyways, by all intents and purposes, she is the rightful, well, at least she's the wielder, or a wielder, of the Darksaber, and she hands it off to Bo Katan, and in front of the entire Mandalorian tribes that are there. It's not just like two people that are there, it's like a whole bunch of people. There's different clans, different clan leaders there to witness it. She takes it without fighting Sabine and says, okay, I will be the leader of Mandalore because you guys have chosen me. So fast forward in the future, she somehow loses the Darksaber in an event that we have not seen. I believe it's called the Thousand Tears of Mandalore, and Moff Gideon has it. So there's another kind of stealing of the Darksaber going around, and even though Din defeats Moff Gideon with his Beskar spear, which is super cool, by the way. I'm really glad that he was able to use that. He hands it off to Bo-Katan, saying like, okay, yep, here's the deal, it's yours. I know it didn't go as planned. I know that you wanted to fight him for yourself, but things didn't work out. Like, he was attempting to kill me. He was it looks like he was going to maybe hurt Grogu, so I defended myself and I beat him. So here's the saber anyway, and I also deliver him as prisoner. And of course, for some reason, she says, no, I actually can't just take it. Moff Gideon says she has to defeat you by combat. And now we're at the point of like, wait, so when is she allowed to take it, and when is she, when does she have to fight for it? Because it was insinuated that she had to fight Moff Gideon, which would make sense. And I've got a couple of theories about this as to why she had to, why she believes she has to fight Din, the Mandalorian, and as opposed to why she was just able to take it from Sabine Wren. And this is kind of just tracing back more of what happens in the TV shows in Clone Wars and in Rebels specifically. So I don't have full knowledge of the exact Mandalorian creed, and that's not really stated for the most part, but I think we can look at the TV shows and kind of piece together why she has to come to this conclusion of, I actually have to fight him to wield the Darksaber once again. So first we have to look at Darth Maul and what happened in Clone Wars when he fights Pre Vizsla. That was one of the most epic fights, and I think what's really important as to why Darth Maul was accepted by some of the Mandalorians to be the rightful leader is he defeats Pre Vizsla in combat. But most importantly, he defeats Pre Vizsla without using the Force. And I think that's extremely important to note. He is just using his more lightsaber skills to defeat Pre Vizsla, and Pre Vizsla is using all the weapons allowed to him. And by rights, it maybe Darth Maul could have used the Force and say, this is a weapon. It's in my toolkit, so to speak. But he doesn't. He defeats him with just raw skill alone. The only time he uses the Force is when Pre Vizsla is clearly defeated, and instead of walking over to grab Darksaber and walking back to, behead him, he uses the Force to save time for obviously us, the viewer. But it also makes sense. He's already, it's clear that he's a victor. There's a scene where Pre Vizsla's looking up the other Mandalorians, and they kind of know. They look down and they know, okay, yeah, this is over. So I think, even though he's an outsider, even Darth Maul is not from the Mandalorian clan. He didn't grow up in the traditions. He had beaten their leader in what seemed like a pretty fair combat. He didn't use the Force. He just used his skill. So that's why the whole Civil War happened. But kind of like he said, history is not going to necessarily see him as the traitor, depending, what parts of the Mandalorian traditions and creed you believe. And now we have to fast forward all the way to Rebels, and this is where things get a little bit more confusing, because there's this idea of potentially stealing or potentially taking away the Darksaber not by combat, and so it kind of gets a little muddly. But more or less, we kind of have to follow the TV show and see how people accept the transference of the Darksaber. So let's start with Sabine and the Rebel crew and Ezra stealing the Darksaber, and then Sabine wielding it. So, Ezra finds the Darksaber with Maul, and he goes like, oh, what's this? And he's like, don't touch that. And eventually the Darksaber makes its hands to Sabine, because Ezra and Kanan have no use for it. They have their own lightsabers. They don't need an additional lightsaber. They're not dual wielders. So Sabine is wielding it for a long period of time. There's this big hesitancy, and it looked like she was maybe going to be the leader of the Mandalorians, but she decides, it's not for me. I've got my own issues. I'm more really aligned with the Rebel Alliance more than the Mandalorians. Not that I'm ditching my Mandalorian identity, but I've done so much more with the Rebel crew, and I want to make sure that it's given to the rightful person. And so she gives it to Bo Katan. Now this is really important because it's essentially an insider an insider making a transference in power. It's not an outsider like Darth Maul coming in saying, I want the power combat. Like, that's the only way. Or it's an insider, two people of the Mandalorian tradition that share the tradition saying, look, we don't have to fight. Like, I'm just giving it to you. We believe the same things. We're on the same page. And I honestly just don't want to lead. So, like, here you go. Now, again, this is really important. This transference of power is really important. It's an insider and an insider agreeing on what's happening. And a bunch of other Mandalorians, even clan leaders, are seeing this. They're not seeing a combat. They're seeing literally someone passing over the Darksaber and saying, oh, okay, like, if they don't want to fight for it, like, that's cool with us. If they're on the same page, that's cool with us. So why is this a problem with Din when he's a Mandalorian? Well, in certain terms, he is kind of an outsider, even though he is a Mandalorian. So what do I mean by he's an outsider? Well, we all know at this point he is a Children of the Night. I think I said Children of the Watch last time. Oh, it's the other way around. Regardless, he is from a different sect of the Mandalorian tradition. He's kind of like noted as like, religious zealots. They're kind of like the extremist in a certain sense. They have certain beliefs and certain traditions that don't align with the main Mandalorian tribes that we've been seeing in Clone Wars and Rebels, right? Because, we were all kind of confused as to, wait, we've definitely seen other Mandalorians take off their helmets. Why not him? We got that answer revealed when he found out. It was news to him saying, oh, like, you're actually from a different sect. So I think coming into that kind of viewpoint, Bo Katan is seeing him as an outsider. She's saying, look, I know you're Mandalorian, but like, I don't know if every other tribe is going to see it that way. I don't know if like the same clans that saw Sabine transfer the Darksaber to me will necessarily accept the same idea here, because even like me personally, who's like pretty like who can team up with Jedi and clones to retake Mandalore, which is already kind of like sketch. Even I don't know if that's gonna fly by, and I think that's why she's not able to at least fully accept the Darksaber. I think she really wanted to, of course, but I don't think in this case that the other tribe. She was probably thinking the other Mandalorian clans might not see this as a proper transference of power. So I'll probably have to fight it, fight for it at some point in the future with him. Now, in my last video, I had predicted that she might offer him a place in her clan because he might take away the Mandalorian might strip away his own identity as the religious sect, and we see that when he takes off his helmet to say goodbye to Grogu, and we've already seen that more and more as he forms a bigger attachment to Grogu, him saying this is actually more important. My relationship, taking care of him is more important than what I've grown up with my entire time. So we might not necessarily see a fight either, to be quite honest. He might start adopting the more traditional Mandalorian beliefs and creed that we've been seeing throughout the TV shows. And if that's the case, then he might be able to actually transfer it over without any issue and without any conflict necessary. But it'd probably be more interesting to see Bo Katan duke it out with the main protagonist, but I think there's also a possibility for him to say like, I don't want to be the children of the Watch, children of the night anymore. I accept these Mandalorian creed that I'm not necessarily familiar with, but honestly it's probably more comfortable, and therefore I can transfer the Darksaber to you without a conflict. Then the other tribes, the other clans might look at that and say, a little unorthodox, but it works in this case. So we might not necessarily see a fight. Now, more than anything, I think that that might be like a subplot in season 3. If they choose like to not accept it, just handing it off. If they choose to, if they say, we have to duke it out. That I think that might be a subplot, and I think again season 3 is set up for Admiral Thrawn, and I've made my own predictions about how season 3 is gonna go and how Admiral Thrawn goes into play. So go ahead and check out those videos. I'll put it up on the top above me. But I feel like that might be like a subplot of season 3 if they choose like to not duke it out. But honestly, I think at this point we've already seen Din kind of do away with most of what he's grown up with because of Grogu's effect on him. So I feel like it could go either way, because it might make more sense in terms of how the story has unfolded for him to actually, join the main Mandalorian tribes. But it would definitely be interesting to see the fight between Bo Katan and Din happen. But I would like to know your thoughts on that personally. Let me know in the comments down below what you think will happen between Bo Katan and the main protagonist. But more importantly, I think I want to say this. I think, people saying this is a massive plot hole, like this breaks everything. I don't think we're giving, Jon Favreau, George Lucas, Dave Filoni a lot of credit. I mean, Dave Filoni was the guy behind the scenes between the whole animated TV shows for Star Wars. So I think the guy knows what he's doing, when he's when he has a voice in The Mandalorian. So I think people need to cool off a little bit and just let season 3 unfold. I'm sure that'll all be explained in season 3 in a way that makes sense. But if you're kind of like going like freaking out, like don't freak out. I'm sure, if at least my predictions aren't correct, I'm sure there will be an explanation early on as to why the simple handing of the Darksaber was not allowed. Well, that is all I have for you today, fellow nerds, fellow Mandalorian fans. I am super excited for season 3. I hope you are too. Let me know down in the comments below what you want me to cover in the future. In the meantime, I've been covering The Mandalorian because it's just been so cool to cover. I've enjoyed it. I'm excited for a Book of Boba Fett, and I did mention that he probably wasn't going to claim he was a Mandalorian, and I was correct on that. So I feel like I've been doing pretty good with my predictions. So again, if you haven't seen my other videos, check those out. Subscribe to see me make more predictions about other stuff. I'm ready to talk about the future of Cyberpunk. I kind of wanted to compare that to the Avengers, and I did a video on that as well. So there's a lot of things I want to cover. One of my favorite comics, Home Sweet Home, just made a Netflix live appearance. And I don't know when I'll have time to see that, but I know I will at some point and kind of just talk about it. So again, if any of that nerdy stuff kind of intrigued you, consider hitting that subscribe button so you have an easier time finding me in the future. And again, let me know in the comments what you want to talk about. I always cater to you guys. I always change my schedule around. So just let me know. But thank you all so much for watching. If you're still here at this point, YouTube is showing a video of my most recent upload. On top could be me playing Magic the Gathering. And the bottom below that is a video that YouTube believes that you specifically will like. So go ahead and check those out. Thank you all so much. I will see you for your next Nerd Fill.